I was kidnapped. I'm writing these lines during the last days of the month of March in the year 2023. And I have been clean from all drugs since the year 2019. It took me a while to write this. I never thought I would be posting because of how stupid I was and the stupid mistakes I made. I know I will get a lot of duh comments on here, so don't even say it. I already know. I'm telling this story to remind people that everyone's intentions are not what they say they are. I am mentally traumatized from this experience, and I get reminders of it every day. I am grateful to be alive, and I have no idea what would have happened if I didn't get away when I did. So save the rude and cruel comments. Thanks. This story is based in September of the year 2017. I believe. Such a fucking blur. I did whatever I could to survive in this harsh world, so please no judgment. I was on the streets, no family, and in active crack, soon to be a meth addict. Some backstory. I started using crack in the year 2015, and I figured out that if I sold my body, I could make easy money. I know, not ideal, but I was deep in addiction, and at that point I didn't care about anything. But in January of the year 2017, I met Ty, who also smoked crack, but worked every day, so I no longer had to do that. By the way, that's Ty, T-and-Y. I was going on like 8 months free from selling my body and my soul. Also, when I met Ty, he had a place in this big city, and he did a lot of work for people in this city. I was left on the street by the man I thought I had loved at the time. I must have said something wrong because he flipped out and left with everything I owned in his truck. Fuck. We just spent days getting high, and I was sure he was just throwing a fit. So I went over to my friend. Let's call him S. I went to his house. It was my home away from home, and I felt safe there. S was older, maybe a 60-year-old man who liked to get high over time, and he became one of my best friends. I was able to take a shower and put on some clean clothes. When I was all done, I remember sitting on the couch with this belief that Ty would leave me like that. I started crying and wishing things had been different, while S held me and comforted me. I knew deep down that I needed a fresh start, to depend on myself and live a happy life. Across the street from S's house was a hometown bar where rappers and musicians would perform, and on that particular night the bar had been filled with people from the bigger city about half an hour away. Now, let me explain the following thing. Where I come from, there isn't really a place for addicts to go and get clean. They do have a women's shelter, which I had been to before. About 30 minutes away, there is a bigger city where they have all the help you can ask for if you are willing to do the work. At this point, I was ready to get away from everyone and everything. I had no hope of cleaning up my life if I stayed anywhere close to where I was using. I remember you have to remove all playmates, playthings, and playgrounds, so that's what I needed to do. I went right over to that particular bar, and I found a semi-good-looking guy heading back to the city. The city to which I needed to go. I told him I had planned to go to the shelter in the morning, and he told me that I could just go with him and he will take me in the morning. On the right, I remember feeling like a whole 100 bricks was lifted off of my shoulders. I had nothing but the clothes on my back and an Obama phone with no minutes. I talked to the guy that was driving. We had a pretty sweet ride, by the way. I said to him, "You don't fuck with this, right?" And I pulled out my crack pipe. He shook his head, so I rolled down the window and I just let it go. I knew that going into this shelter, I had to get better. Not just for me, but I had kids and a family that at that time still hoped I would get better. Yes, they did believe in me. I wanted to start over. I just didn't know how hard it was going to be. Me and this random dude go to his friend's house, we smoke a blunt, and I don't remember nothing after that. I don't remember anything. I woke up on the floor of a clean room. I mean, seriously clean. There was nothing in it. It smelled like paint. As I looked around, I realized this was the place that this dude was talking about. He was moving into that place and he was renting that place. I got up and he took me to get some coffee and he took me right over to the shelter. I was fucking terrified of what I was walking into. I had no idea what to expect. All I knew was that I needed to better my life and I needed to do it now. I had to improve everything. As we drove into downtown, I got a little nervous because I knew that downtown was full of crime and drug dealers, big buildings and confusing signs, tons of people and a lot of traffic. I then realized I was going to have to work really hard to get my life back. We pulled onto the street and before I knew it, he was dropping me off. There I was standing in this big, beautiful, clean lobby, just feeling lost and broken. I had been with Ty for almost 7 months, and this was the first time he left me like this. So I was kinda hurt over that. I knew he had been seeing someone else in a recent month breakup, and he wasn't afraid to show it. It smelled like lime with spotless white walls. I walked up to the desk and I was asked if I was homeless. To that I said yes, and she didn't even ask any questions. She just looked at me with sad eyes, and then she said,
"Okay, hon, let's get you set up." "Okay, dear, let's get your things settled and fix your room."
She took me to a small room of boxes, I think. She took me to a small room full of boxes, and she hands me one. She explained that it was for my personal things, toiletries, etc. I looked at her with unsettling eyes, and I replied that I didn't have any belongings, that I had lost everything the night before. The nice lady gave me some toiletries and a pair of leggings. Next was the intake where I had to answer a bunch of questions, and I was handed a paper with all the rules written on it, and on top of the paper it stated that there was no Wi-Fi in or around the building. You had to go down to the stop sign to get some internet. My phone was off, so I could still use Wi-Fi, but at the same time, I wasn't really that worried about it. I knew Ty was already probably staying with that other girl. Michelle was her name, I think. So I didn't feel it was necessary to even try to use my phone. I decided to cut everyone off and try to be different. When she was done giving me the rundown on how things worked, she took me into the day room. Walking from the lobby was weird, and I remember feeling sick through the double doors with stairs off to the left. Under the stairs, there was a pile of mats. I was told to grab one. I followed her through another set of double doors into the day room, which was huge. I was completely dumbfounded. It was filled with at least 50 females. A lot of older ladies with nowhere to go, but it was loud and bright. The wall to my left was full of lockers, which I was told I would get one if I stayed there long enough. And in front of that wall, as about 10 or 15 round tables set up where most of the girls were sitting, playing cards, coloring, and talking. On the other side of the room was the shower and the bathroom, and a small TV that sat on a cart with wheels on it. It was next to the cart. Next to the cart was an end table that had an electrical strip full of chargers and phones. In the far back right corner was a door that led outside to go smoke. It was nice that there were some picnic tables and lawn chairs set up with a huge fenced-in yard for the kids to play in. When 7 p.m. hit, the whole dynamic of the room changed. Everyone was moving around, people was running in, and then you hear it over the speaker. Roll call! Then we were instructed to go and get one mat to sleep on. They passed out blankets and pillows to those who were without one. They let us keep the TV on. The first night was scary and lonely. Here I was in a strange place, not even 2 full days clean off a week-long crack binge. I was up half of the night with my head just racing. I finally fell asleep when the other girls started to get quiet. The morning came way too fast, and the rule was that you had to get up at 7 a.m. You didn't have to leave, but you had to get up. A lot of the older ladies didn't even leave the shelter. They knew that they had a place to stay, and they had nothing else to do all day, so they hung out together at the shelter all day long. I had to go upstairs for breakfast, which was okay. I'm not really a breakfast food person, but that morning I was starving. I had the whole deal: eggs, bacon, and milk. After breakfast, I went out to smoke, and I noticed that this tiny black girl with cornrows in her hair had some cards in her back pocket. I had been playing cards since I was a kid. My dad had taught me a few games. I played with friends, and I also had done some time in jail in the past. I was lonely. I didn't know where anything was, and it was obvious that I needed some help. I asked her for her name, and if she wanted to play cards, and after 2 games, we had a connection. She was cool, and she liked me, so I was okay with that. I can be awkward around new people, and females tend to not like me, so I find it hard sometimes to make friends. She asked me after we played a few more games of Rumi if I wanted to go to McDonald's with her. I was rather cool with the idea because I needed to learn the area anyway. I needed to get to know it. On the walk and on the way there, as we were talking, something caught my eye, so I looked up, and there he fucking was! It was Ty, with all of my belongings in his truck. He drives right by us. I tried to call, but he ignored me every time. I guess he was done with me for good this time. That crushed me. I wanted to fall to the ground and just sink till I disappeared. But instead, I had about 10 different emotions running through my body all at once. I was so angry that he was just looking for some reason to leave me since the month before when we broke up and I stayed with my dad for a while. He started seeing this Michelle. I was just absolutely devastated. We continued our walk to McDonald's as I was silent and broken. That night was easier to sleep because I was exhausted from not having any sleep and just feeling done and exhausted. I slept like a baby, to be honest. The next day, Mish wanted to show me this place, so she goes to get a good free lunch. The only thing was, it was a church, and we had to sit through a 30-minute sermon, which was cool with me. We were standing outside, waiting on the church to open their doors, and this blacked out Mercedes-Benz with a trailer hauling a badass Harley pulled up, and it parked in front of the church. I then heard my loud mouth say, "Damn, that's a nice fucking setup." I looked at my friend Mish, and then looked back at the Harley. That's when I saw him. I specifically remember everyone knowing who he was. Will is what they called him. I remember getting excited to meet new people and be part of a new community. Everyone was really nice going into the church and stuff. A guy at the door walking in gave us a pamphlet of meal times and services offered. I followed Mish to one of the back pews and I slid in behind her. The church was super pretty. Different colors, and there was a choir singing in a low and almost quiet tone as people around us were taking their seats. I kinda froze when that guy I saw come in. Will sat next to me. I looked at Mish, and then I quickly noticed his golden watch. It could have been fake, but it almost looked like a Rolex. He was an older black gentleman, talked real smooth when he introduced himself with his hand out. I was shocked that he wanted to shake my hand. No one in my life does that. I shook his hand, and they were creamy, like he takes very good care of them and obviously does not work a physically demanding job. He was nicely dressed, and he had his pimp hat on, like a fedora. It even had a feather in it. His colon was strong, but it smelled good, like a man. He was handsome and smooth, and he was also very confident. Sitting through this sermon, I found it hard to pay attention to the preacher. I remember looking at his clean, shiny black leather shoes, and the socks were black and thick. When the service was finally over, people started heading into the dining area. I just followed Mish through the door, and we got our food. We picked an empty space to eat in one of the end of the long tables full of chairs. Not even 5 minutes, not paying attention to our surroundings, just eating. Will came over and sat 3 seats away from me. He looked at Mish and said, "Hey, do you mind?" I don't know why I didn't see the red flags. Of course I see them now, but looking back, I was so clueless. He hardly said a word the whole time that we were eating, and when he was done, he got up, he threw his stuff away, and I assumed that he decided to leave. Mish and I decided to go home and play some cards and go to a clothes bank that she knew about. We were walking home and talking when he pulled up next to us. He rolled down his window and he asked if we needed a ride home, but he was looking at me with a deep stare. I looked back at Mish and she refused. Smart girl. And I went with him. Dumb girl. I think I was more curious than anything. I had to know how he made that kind of money, and I remember wanting that. We drove around till my curfew, and we just talked. I don't know what it was. I think we had a lot in common and we related a lot. He asked me how I ended up at this shelter, and he was just asking questions, so I decided to tell him. I don't know what it was. I am not sure if I trusted him, but I told him about my past anyway. I told him about how I sold my body for drugs, how terrible it was, and I even said that I was glad I didn't do it anymore. He didn't say much about it, and we agreed that we would continue our talk the next day, and he would help me put in a couple applications, and he had some errands to do as well. I woke up the next morning to a text from Will that said, "What if you made that kind of money but spending on yourself, not drugs? Everything you make will go to building your life. Just think about it." I thought about it. I'm not gonna say why I agreed, and I went to him with the idea that this would work and I could actually get my life together and get my kids back. $200 a half an hour. I could be free. I chose to go with him. At that time, I think he thought I wanted to be with him, but in reality, I just wanted a way out of the situation I was in. I hated that stinky, loud shelter, and I wanted a way out. I wanted out. He got a room at a motel, and we dropped off my stuff, and he told me that I needed some new clothes. He did tell me that he was just fired from a trucking company, that he was a truck driver. He was currently trying to find another job, as far as I knew. He took me shopping and got me a few new outfits, more or less outfits to take pictures in to bring the money. I knew what I was getting into, and I was preparing my mind to handle everything that was about to happen. Will did tell me that if I went with him, I had to stay clean, and I needed to have a clear mind to make money and be smart. Looking back at how manipulative he was and how he made me believe that I would do this to make my life better. I started doing this before I got addicted a few times in the past, in order to make money for rent and bills. So I knew I could mentally do it, but I was still unsure about where this was gonna go. We get back to the hotel and I do my thing, take my pictures and post them. It didn't take long before I started to get calls. I did make some money and I kept every penny, and Will took me shopping. I remember the shoes I bought. They were black and gold baby pads. Oh, I loved these shoes. I did. I got like 6 or 7 cute outfits, some makeup and some hair dye. I remember I came to the shelter with nothing, so being able to get all this stuff made me feel so good. I was confident in myself, and I was hopeful that I could get a place and I could start a new life within a few weeks, if not days. Remembering how things went, I am starting to think that this was some part of his sick game. Making girls think that they can do it and keep all the money, and then just trap them and make them need you. It's totally sick. He tricked me. He made me think I could finally live a clean life. Yeah, I was courting, but I treated it like a job. I bought another phone, so I had a new number and I used the Obama phone for work. And I turned it off at around 5 p.m. I thought wrong. I later that day went back over to the shelter and I grabbed the one shirt I had and some personal things, and I left with Will. That night was cool. He was super chill. We talked in separate beds. We got a 2-bed, and he didn't act like he had interest in me like that, which I was happy about because I didn't want to be with anyone. I didn't want to be with anyone in bed. I needed a break from emotional attachment. After Ty left me, I felt like I wouldn't trust anyone like that in a long time. So I was happy that I was actually comfy in a bed, watching TV, freshly showered, with money in my pocket. I had the best night's sleep, and I woke up to the breakfast and time to get up and get myself together. He got up early. He went and got us breakfast and coffee. He ate with me and then he left. He said that he will be back in a couple hours. He told me to take my time and to do what I gotta do. So I did just that while he was gone. I dyed my hair. I took a shirt and the works. Not long after I was done and waited for him, the door opens and a female walks in. She's pale and has a beautiful face, long, pretty blonde hair that ran down her shoulders. She was real petite, way too skinny, and size B chest. Pretty big blue eyes that had dark circles under them. It looked like she had been crying and she was carrying a black trash bag that contained all her possessions. Will walked in behind her and introduced her as Anna, and that she needs some help too. He instructed me to get her together. get her pretty and take some pictures and post them. He then told her to go on and take a shower and then asked to talk to me outside. We went outside the door, and as I was shutting it, his voice got real stern and said, "I see you have not made any money yet. And why the hell is that?" I tried to explain that Sundays were the lowest days, and I would be lucky to make any money today. Before I could finish, he cut me off and said, "I don't give a fuck. You need to make some fucking money. What do you think? What? You think this hotel pays for itself? I will pay for it tonight, but for now, on your pay is half and half of all expenses. Now go make some fucking money." I couldn't even believe he was talking like this. I never saw him so mad, and his voice scared the hell out of me. I looked at him when he cut me off, and I could see him get angry. His eyes got wide, and the white just disappeared, and they became all black. I was scared, but I did what he said. He then left me alone with her while he went out and got food and whatever he did. When Anna got out of the shower and her skin was more exposed, as she walked out of the bathroom in a small towel, I knew she was addicted to IV use. I assumed heroin. She confirmed it after I asked her if it was gonna be a problem to not do drugs because this was his rule for me. Why wouldn't it be a rule for the other girls? After my kid's father passed away from an overdose, I didn't like to surround myself with girls I knew I could get close to. Tried to help and something happened, so I cut all of that out. And when she told me I was like, "Okay, no girl. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to make some calls because you can't stay here." And at that point, I didn't even care what the fuck Will has to say. I don't want her here, period. As soon as he came through the door, I stopped him and took him outside. I just told him I didn't think I could work with her. I didn't want to be around a heroin addict, or any kind of addict for that matter. He did make her pack her stuff, and he took her home. I think he was trying to please me for some reason. Will and I then took a ride to Main Street, where all the girls walk and work. It was so weird. I remember how I said he knew everyone at the church. Well, he knew all those girls, business owners, police officers, and other men who drove drug dealers' cars. I don't know why I didn't just run then. I could have run. I'll never know. About an hour or two of driving around, talking to a bunch of different girls, this random ass girl jumps in the car. It was crazy. They had known each other for years, I guess, and she had been looking for him and wanted to make some money. She was quite a bit older than me, but still really pretty, like beautiful. She had long, thick, curly, jet black hair. I didn't really get a look at her until we got back to the hotel. Will told me that he wanted to get a few girls together and make some big money. I was always gonna be number one, and I will never pose with another female because I am the number one. He told me I was important and that we were building our own family. Amy was tall and thick, but she was gorgeous. Big blue eyes, pretty skin, small waist with a big round butt. And she was a straight up bitch. She took benzos, she was prescribed to them, and I guess he allowed it. It wasn't long before I couldn't help but watch her. She was popular, and then, like at night, she would be falling out and nodding off. It drove me crazy! What Will would do was that during the day he would leave me at the hotel to make money, and he took Amy to the street and worked her. Well, it wasn't 2 days before they came home with another girl, a rather young one, 18 years old. Her choice, by the way. She had no family. I only know what they tell me. Her name was Amanda. She was short like me and a little chunky, which was okay. Guys like chunky too. She had blonde long hair and a cute face. She was sweet, and she didn't say much. I tried to get to know her a little better, but she wasn't around for long. I posted her with Amy, and she didn't get much of a feedback. More people were calling for Amy. Amanda stayed with us for a few days before she decided that she wanted to go home. Will, Amy, and I didn't stay at that hotel for long, and we ended up deep into the city, the farthest away from my hometown. Bigger room and a little nicer hotel with a view of the whole city. It had a shitty little microwave and a drive-up entrance to our room. Will and Amy brought home 2 girls that night. I don't remember them very much because I wasn't involved with them very much. I posted them, and the next few days we made some money. Every time a girl would make money, they would give it to Will because he had them believe he was saving it for them and getting them anything they wanted. I continued to make money on my own, and I also gave him my money. I got conspicuous, and I will never forget the moment I knew I was not safe. I was outside smoking a cigarette. I wasn't out there long, but when I came back into the room, Will had all 3 girls posing on the bed as he was coaching them on how to pose and taking snaps of them. I didn't say a word, and I closed the door slowly. I don't know why I felt the way I did, but it just didn't feel right. I don't know if he heard me open and close the door, but I heard him yell my name, and he said that he needed me. He handed me his phone and told me to post the pictures. When I got onto the website and I tried to post the pictures, it now wanted money instead of posting ads for free. Will unhappily ran to I don't know where and put money on a cart. When I tried to put the card in, it wouldn't accept it, and it said it wanted bitcoins. I informed Will, and I even showed him the page that it wasn't gonna post. He got furious and then yelled at me. He turned and walked out of the room. I looked at everyone else and I tried to apologize for his actions and to stay calm. It will be okay. He came right back with a gun in his hands. I didn't even know he owned a gun. He hit me in the face with it and said I needed to find somewhere to post the ad or I'm done, and then left. I don't know if he realized that he did that in front of the 3 other girls, and I didn't know what or I'm done was supposed to mean either. I was fucking terrified, and that's when I knew I had to find a way to escape. I learned real quick that I wasn't able to just leave anytime I wanted anymore. After Amy got involved, Will changed. He started talking about taking us girls to New York and make big money and travel and go here and there, and that alone scared the hell out of me. I wanted to build a life to get my kids back, not leave state, to trick and maybe be killed or abandoned. Oh hell no, fuck that! I got fearful for my life when he hit me with that gun. I have never been hit before. Punched like a man but I have never been hit with a gun. That night, I had a couple dates set up, and Will knew that he had to take the girls and leave. I decided to try to make a plan to get away. The first date I made $200, and I put 50 in my purse, and then put 50 in a pocket in a bra hidden away, and I left the rest on the table. The second date, I made $150, and I put half hidden away and the rest on the table. Will came in not long after I was finished and grabbed the money off the table. My purse was sitting right there and I didn't see him do it, but he took that money out of my purse and said that he had to do something, and he left again. That was when I made my escape. I made 100 calls before I finally reached someone who was willing to help me. He had a friend come and pick me up and bring me to his house. I will never forget the feeling I had when I was running out to the car with a trash bag full of stuff I have collected in the past 3 weeks. I was scared to death that he would come pulling up and see me. That feeling didn't leave me until we hit the highway. I wanted to tell this story because I have never been able to get through telling it. I couldn't help to think where I would be if I stayed, and if I would even be alive. So, Will, let's never meet again.